Anupriya Goenka, welcome to How I Made It.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining me. Your journey has been really praiseworthy, and you've
Thank you.
done it without, without being an insider. And let's start from, you know, the day, the first day when you decided that मुझे तो actress ही बनना है, अब और कुछ नहीं.
I don't know when was that day ever in my life, really, because since I started to act and since I started to either do theater or start doing advertisements, I think from then on it took me about 1.5 years, 2 years myself to really admit to myself that this is what I want to do for life and jo aur kuch nahi karna because it was a very organic sort of a decision. I mean, even for me or for my family didn't realize until I'd finished a Telugu movie, another one was releasing. Like, they really did not know where acting is what I'm doing professionally now. And even for myself, it took me a decent amount of time after I started the whole process of working, auditioning, all of that, that I felt that okay, no, this is really a profession that I've chosen to do.
I would say you got noticed first in the Mintra ad. Would you agree? That was the point where you got noticed.
Yes and no. Like for me, I think by one the place where I got really noticed was before Mintra, when I did Bharat Nirman ad with Pradeep Sarkar, Dada, and that was the first year of my acting actually, 2013. And that did really, really well, that advertisement. But at that time, unfortunately, I was in Hyderabad for good 10 months. So I was really cut off from everything in Bombay. I was making these films, Telugu movies that and I remained in Hyderabad for 10 months. And after that, Bobby Jasoos happened, and that too took me to Hyderabad. So I was there for almost a year. And while during that time, the Bharat Nirman campaign had become huge, and there was a lot of publicity because that was the first government campaign, it was plastered all over. But because I wasn't in Bombay at that time or not accessible, I think that I didn't really materialize on that. But I would always say that was my first break per se. And then, of course, yes, the Mintra ad did exceptionally well. None of us really expected that outcome, and the way it was received, and the way, like till today, people tell me that one short film of yours, that lesbian short film that you did, and a lot of people, yes, in public view, yes, I think a lot of people took notice of me there.
Did you receive some kind of flack on phone
Not at
calls
all.
or messages or on social media because you did a bold ad? You know, everything that an actor does comes with its fair share of pros and cons in today's times.
Nothing. But honestly, I don't remember coming across even one, bad message or a negative comment till now in all these years. I don't think I've even received one negative comment so far. But even at that time when the ad had come out, that was 5 years ago, even then it was received so beautifully by everybody, whether be it people from the gay community or people who live a straight life, uh, who are homosexuals. But even from them, everyone kind of received it as beautifully and as with as much grace. And that kind of showed me that yes, our country is kind of progressing forward, you know. And it also became a reflection of how you present a topic, how you talk about it. I think a lot had to do with the script and the way the film or the ad was picturized because it was done in a very elegant manner and talked about subject and made it look very relatable rather than sensitizing it or making it titillating. So I think that's why I have never once received a negative comment. In fact, I've had so many people from the gay community send me messages about their stories, about how it inspired them, their heartfelt emotions, everything till date.
So you went through this whole grind, I believe, entirely with auditions.
Mm.
Now take us through that and tell me, how were these auditions? Did you go through a fair share of rejections? Did you go through times when you said, I don't want to do this, why am I getting rejected? How was it like?
Uh, Absolutely. Like I've gone through, I mean, of all of us actors who go through the grind of auditions, we see 80% more rejections, and within that, we get some 20% of acceptance. Maybe for some it's much better, I don't know, but I would say that's my share of experience. From all the things that you audition for every now and then, only a couple of things really click, and maybe those are meant for you. So you are always in the process of, being, you get some, you lose many in that zone. And it, but I think I learned at a very early stage, somehow very organically, that it doesn't reflect me personally. And there are times you really 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 want something, and you really want it to work out because you love the role or the project so much, and the way it is, it's spread out, and what it is trying to communicate, you want to be a part of that story. Then yes, it is extremely hurtful when you put your hopes on it, and you really work hard on an audition, and hope that it is going to work out. And there are many times that I felt deflated or demotivated, and I felt, I didn't feel, why is it happening to me, that why didn't I get this part? But it many a times, just the uncertainty of this career, and just the whole place that the struggle never stops. It just changes gears, it changes forms, but it's like an uphill task at all times. That kind of gets to you sometimes, that, oh god, when will it be simpler, when will it just come to a stage wherein, there is exciting work lined up, and you're looking forward to that, rather than being project to project basis. That kind of sometimes gets to you, for sure. But it is a freelancer's life, I think. That's what a freelancer's life is all about.
So, do you think that even today you are not on a safe ground where you can say, okay, अब तो भैया हम पहले से बेहतर हैं, काम मिलेगा?
पहले से actually पता है क्या, I think what has happened is, I'm a very realistic person, okay, and I think I've lived this life of project to project for so long right now, for the last 4 5 years, that even since last 2 years things have become far better, and I'm constantly working. Last 2.5 3 years I'm really constantly working from one thing to the other, and I know that there are things lined up for me also. But still, it's that feeling abhi bhi aati hai ki, oh, what next, that fear, that, oh, will this stop suddenly? Can this still go back to zero? Can there still be a time that I wouldn't find work? That kind of fear I still have. Maybe struggled for so long to kind of, even, yes, I'm very thankful to God that things are much better. Like, I've been blessed with very decent amount of work. I have worked with fabulous people. I've got to learn a lot through those experiences, and I've really had the blessing of working with supremely talented individuals and great scripts. And so that's why those projects have also done well, be it in the web front or in the movies, because there's been something special about each one of them. But but yeah, I mean, I still sometimes feel that, that one role that I would really really grind myself over, or completely get, squeezed out on, like, in terms of juice out all creative aspects and stuff. That still kind of feels, oh, that is yet to happen.
Okay, so you are saying that still eludes you.
It doesn't, I wouldn't say it eludes me, because they do come in once in a while, but somehow things have not worked out. Either the dates have not worked out, or the the way those projects are mounted haven't worked out. And yes, there are two, three things in the near future which look like that, which look like, and the roles are getting better, the experience is getting better. I have also become far more, like I take more charge now of my role or of my script, and I kind of get more creatively invested in each of my roles. So I'm kind of learning how to grow in a, see, what's written on paper is one thing, but what you make out of it and how you kind of collaborate in a project and take more authority is also very important. So the learning is continuing, and I'm learning in different aspects and changing with each project a little, maybe for the better, hopefully. So I wouldn't say it eludes me, but yeah, like I still feel that one role that I feel that I've completely squeezed out all my creative juices in. That hasn't happened yet, and looks like it may happen soon. But let's see. When that happens, I shall tell you.
So, in this journey, I think there are two phases which always an actor faces. One is he does some roles which he doesn't believe in, and one is he moves away from projects which he doesn't believe in. Have you encountered both?
I have, I so I have thankfully I'll say I'm very blessed to not get embroiled in projects which I didn't believe in. Many a times I've made choices. Obviously, all of us have to say no, the right choices in career. It's more important to know what you say no to rather than what you say yes to. I mean, in terms of when something you like and it comes to you, it's an obvious yes. That instinct works, but you should know when your instinct is not favoring it, and when you feel no, this is not meant for you. So yeah, I mean that has happened many a times that I've walked away from things. I don't know, walk away would be the right term. For me, it would mean that I've I've gotten into a project and then I've walked out. That I've never, except for once, maybe or maybe twice. Dates were a lot of an issue. I've never really walked out of a project. But yeah, there have been many times where I've been very close to signing up something and all talks have happened. We've just not completely said yes to a project, and been having that feeling that no, this is somewhere not working. And the more you kind of dive deeper into the whole fabric of the project, you realize it's not for you. And then I've taken a stance of keeping away because I felt I wouldn't be able to do justice to the role because of whatever there is. And that has happened. But yeah.
So,
So
what troubles you?
project.
What troubles you? Do intimate scenes trouble you? Do usage of cuss words trouble you? Or do you get sometimes the wrong vibes from a person? Does that bother you? In these kinds of, in times of filter.
What troubles me many times is also the sensibilities of people that probably are attached to the project or the script many a times. Sometimes the role is great, but the script isn't. It is not really making sense to me. Sometimes the script is really wonderful, and you know that it will be an interesting project, but your role doesn't have much to say. You don't have much to do in that particular graph. Yes, also as an aspect of storytelling, I don't kind of do with stories which are demeaning for women. It's okay to show women in a bad light as long as the script is redeeming itself. But to objectify them or to glorify the whole use of objectifying women in a script, that I'm not okay with personally. I have no problems with intimate scenes. I have no problem with cuss words as long as they're doing justice to a character. And I know that it is not just to sensationalize or to just get views on basis of that, to get eyeballs. It's because your character and the narrative of the story requires that, and it is being done with a decent sensibility. Then I'm okay with it, and I've also done roles wherein I've had to be intimate and do exposing scenes.
Would you agree if I say, or if one says, that there is too much of abusive language being used in web shows, and the makers are pushing the envelope a bit too far.
Um, See, from what all I have seen, Vicky, I haven't really felt that. Maybe there's a lot of content that I'm not viewing personally as an audience. That could be one reason. But I would say I'm still one of those viewers in Indian audience who've seen quite a few of the well-known series that are out there on various platforms. And I haven't felt that we are just using abusive language for the heck of it all the times, except for maybe certain spaces, of course. From what I have seen in the recent past, in the last 1.5 years, I don't really feel that. But yeah, maybe there is a lot of that content which is out there, just which is just kind of using sexual language, abusive language, just for the heck of it to make it titillating and to make it interesting for the audiences or to catch eyeballs, as I said. Probably I haven't seen it myself, and that might be true. What I do feel is that we aren't really working on the writing enough, on the pre-production enough. We are still churning out quantities for whatever reasons. Probably the studios have their own reasons and their own, calculations behind. But I feel that we are just out a lot of quantity right now vis-a-vis the quality, and with the resources that we are putting in, with the kind of interesting subjects that we are dabbling in, and interesting concepts, and even we are pushing the envelope when it comes to trying different concepts, but we are not weaving the stories well enough, or rather making them soundproof. They still kind of lose the essence somewhere when they are translated onto screen, I feel. And that I feel is because the pre-production part of it is still very loose. uh, but I'm hoping that that will change in some time.
Yeah, because if you say that is the problem, then we might have a situation where the web bubble might just burst in our face, because something similar happened in the corporate structure. It was just quantity, quantity, quantity. There was no story, there was no script. Stars were being signed, 3 film deals, 4 film deals. And if you say that this problem is also happening in the web space now, then this runs the risk of going the same way.
I hope not. I definitely hope not. Web has given us so much freedom and so much liberty, and it's kind of opened up each one of our creative lives, because we can now just make any kind of content and dabble with it without bothering about making a certain masala or a masala movie, or a masala concept or a tried and tested concept, which definitely will get the required viewership. And also the P&As of each of the projects don't have to be aligned well enough with the well enough with how you're mounting the project and the scales. So I hope we don't go back to the same restrictions as we had with movies earlier, because then it is really futile. This is a place to experiment.
No, but I'm glad that you have rung the alarm bell.
I think just me ringing the alarm bell wouldn't really make a difference. I'm just sharing what I feel when it content on the web right now. But I also feel that this is a great time for entertainment industry, and it is only going to get better. I have a very strong feeling about that.
You've done Padmavat, you've done Tigers in the Head, you've done War. And on the other hand, you're doing shows like Sacred Games. You did RMX Player Show, Ashram. What gives you more satisfaction?
Both.
And and how do you approach both the mediums? Do you approach web space differently and movies differently?
Not really, no. As an actor, I don't approach them any different. It's always about the people you're working with. It's about your director's vision, how he and you collaborate on a project together, how your sensibilities match. And I, as an actor, I've really started enjoying in the last couple of years to mold myself according to different directors. that has become my high. And thankfully, very luckily, I've got to work with quite some of the best ones, like Sanjay sir, or even Nagesh Kukunur, or Sid, or from War, or Ali, or even Neeraj Ghewan and Nishkant Kamath sir, and many, like, Prakash Jha. And they all come with different sensibilities. Their way of communicating, their way of looking at a character, their way of storytelling is very different from one another. But one thing that remains the same is their passion. And they all have been extremely different in terms of the way they communicate, but uh, they all allow a certain amount of democracy and room for you to grow, and that has been very interesting. And as an actor, I feel it's best, like, it's quite a high when you have to mold yourself according to the director's language, and then, yeah, work with some new people also recently, and that's a different experience. But I think it's not about the platform it's going on, whether it's a film or it's a web show. It's about the team and the story and how that is mounted. Now, war is going to be a different experience because of the way it's mounted. It's a Yash Raj project. It has Tiger and Ritik, and it's a flashy action film, which is, like, quite lavish in its approach. Similarly, Padmavat is an old different experience because of Sanjay sir and his sensibilities, and it's his vision, and you're just a part of it. And when I do a show like Ashram, which is again now web series, but it has Prakash Jha behind it, who again has come from the same side of Rajniti and Ganga Jal and all. So he has a certain vision, and he has a certain way of storytelling, and approaching topics which are socially relevant. So you become a part of the same frame, but the only difference is the way the story is spread out over 10 hours vis-a-vis 2 hours, and you have to breathe accordingly with the other co-actors and other characters as well. So those kind of things make a difference, but not necessarily the medium per se.
But there's a big difference here between the two mediums in terms of numbers. You get to know
Yeah.
कि मूवी ने कितना पैसा बनाया, whereas in web shows you are not yet, I would say, given that how many people saw it.
I'm happy about that. As an actor, it shouldn't bother us. I don't really want to know whether a film has made 100 crores or 300 crores or 20 crores. Similarly, I'm very happy that that kind of, uh, because it's not about just numbers, it's about success of a movie being rated like that. I
It,
don't think that's right. you know for us to think that, oh, we entered a 100 crore club, or have we entered a 200 crore club or a 300 crore club. Yes, one feels good for sure when it happens, but to get into that race is is very disheartening, I feel, for the craft, you know for what we are trying to achieve. It's not fair. And uh, and I'm glad that that's not happening with the web space just yet.
were you happy with the three big films in every possible way? What I'm trying to ask you now, rather directly,
Yeah.
is that जितने सीन
Yeah.
आपने शूट किए उतने फाइनल ड्राफ्ट में रहे या नहीं रहे तीनों पिक्चरों में?
um, एक आधे तो ऑफ कोर्स कटे होंगे.
Mhm.
See, जितना that way, I'm very thankful for all the three films. I don't know if to be extremely thankful about it, or but yeah, I mean, mostly in War and in Tigers in the Hair, both Yash Raj films, I have was given very solid roles, and the roles were put out right, done justice to. They were shown in the right light, and the graph wasn't altered. And the space of the character was also positioned very well, without tampering with it for the benefit of any other character in the movie. And that I'm extremely thankful to the studios and the director. And I'm glad that I got to do roles which had something to say in the project and had a standing and a life of their own. Similarly, in Padmavat had its own life and its own journey. So my scenes were not cut, to be very honest. They weren't uh, filmed. A lot of our scenes that at least was there on paper for me in Padmavat, they we couldn't really film them because so many things were happening with the movie and the schedules were changing. So they had to compensate with some scenes and change them according to the sets and according to the situation into some smaller scenes, which probably did not communicate as much about the character as should have been, probably because I keep hearing that a lot. A lot of people come and ask me if my scenes were cut in the movie, that they didn't feel that the role was justified. And I personally, yes, felt that the role could have been much more in terms of, it could have communicated much more. But for me, the biggest takeaway from Padmavat was the experience I had with it, and me getting to work with Sanjay sir or being of a film like that and his vision. And I learned a lot through that 1 year with him. So much. I think I've a lot of the confidence that I have today as a performer has come from that 1 year of experience with him. And I'd be forever thankful for that. Plus, he let me go off for Tigers in the Hair for 2 months during the sked of Padmavat. If he hadn't allowed that, I wouldn't have been able to be in Tigers in the Hair.
Tell me your first meeting with Salman Khan.
That was on the set itself, the day we were shooting that bandage scene. The first scene I have with him, it was literally our first meeting also. Actually, the first time I saw him was while we were just out of dinner, the 24-hour cafe shop, and we had just come out and he was crossing us by, and we just kind of got up and said hello to him. But that was really a fleeting meeting or a sort of a face-to-face acknowledgement. But then I formally met him on the day of shoot when we were doing that bandage scene with him. And yeah, it was quite fun. I mean, he was extremely courteous. I was very nervous. I'm generally not a nervous person, but I was a nervous wreck that day. Don't know why. First, the aura about him, and then, I've literally grown up watching him, and it was quite nerve-wracking for me. Plus, I was quite scared. It was my individual scene with him, so I was really scared of messing it up or not really performing well. And he kept cracking jokes. I had to be all serious and in the emotion because I'm such a distressed soul in that scene. But he was totally like making jokes and extending his lines and sometimes having fun, and he improvises like that also, so it's very hard to tell whether he's in the scene or he's doing it in the scene or he's just actually joking around. So it took me a while to get used to that, but that day was that way quite fun. But on the other hand, he's extremely supportive also, and it made me feel that he was only doing cracking jokes to relax me or to make me feel at home. That was very sweet of him.
And your first meeting with Ritik?
Ritik again on set, the first scene that we did together. I had already shot a day before. That was my second day on war, I think. And I had shot some, scenes where I was supposed to be calling him. And those were done. The next day we met and he said something very interesting about the character and the backstory of Aditi and, Kabir, the way he had thought through. And he felt that they had a sort of a chemistry, because at that point in time we were also supposed to film some uh, training session with the team where Ritik was heading the team and all of us, his teammates, were kind of training with him. That was kind of later changed into a mission. So he had many suggestions to give in terms of what his and Aditi's backstory could be and how the script read to him, and he was very like again, giving in terms of as a co-actor. He came in himself, introduced himself to me, said that he had these ideas about our characters, and then he asked that have you already shot anything to do with Kabir's character? And I told him that I've already shot just 2 scenes, like 2 of the phone calls that he was supposed to do, wherein actually those suggestions that he had you know could have been enforced, but because I didn't have an inkling, he said, "Oh, fish," and then he took me to the director later. He kind of said what he felt, and he also very nicely, like in my years later when we were walking back, said that they're so cute, because he said that in case you want to reshoot them, we can. We'll make that happen. So don't worry about it, and let's try working on these lines. He said that maybe at the end Kabir could have a flirtish line space, because some scenes read like that, and maybe in the backstory. So while in training, we could probably bring in those gestures, but unfortunately, the training never happened, and it became a mission, and none of those things could be exercised. But all through the journey of war, he was very, very affectionate as a co-actor to all of us. And what I loved the most about him was that he thought on behalf of the whole script, not just his own character. And he always tried, like just the scene, there's just what he was trying to do with Aditi's and Kabir's character, so that little more nuances could be brought. Yeah, like where more meat could be given to the characters and their their relationship with one another, even if it wasn't really spelled out in the script. So he always tried making those connections wherever possible, and I kind of learnt that from him.
But वो training scene shoot क्यों नहीं हुआ? Why was it converted to mission?
Because I feel that they felt that this would be far more interesting and would make it more action oriented and snappy for the film, rather than just putting up a training. And they also wanted to show that we were already trained individuals who had been in his team for a while and had already done a couple of missions. So they felt that kind of translating that into a mission would look much more impactful, rather than doing a training, which actually worked. They waited for the first half of the film to be cut in to see how it was planned, panning out, and then they made that choice.
Tell us about Ranveer and Tiger.
Ranveer, I didn't have any scenes with him. I never met him on set, except for once, maybe when I was shooting something else and he was doing a scene with Sir. I had a small patchwork. That day was the only day I met him on set, and I'd just come back from Tiger's Zinda Hai shoot, and I was telling Sir all about the experience, and Sir was kind of asking me questions about Salman and blah blah blah, and me and Ranveer we were there, and we kind of just exchanged hellos. We never really had a scene together, but I really hope I get to work with him, because I've heard great things about him as a co-actor, as an actor on set, and his energy and how he kind of gets the whole team together. He works as a team player, and he gets the energy really high on set. I've always heard that. So from all the ADs. And Tiger is a very shy person. He's extremely humble. Like, I don't know, I didn't know that those guys are still manufactured, Like, he has so much humility, and just his body language, his mannerisms, such a gentleman, like in the true sense. I mean, I don't even have words for the way he is. You must know yourself, And I earlier felt that maybe he's reserved, and even I'm a shy person. I'm not someone who's able to talk very freely, and I do get very conscious, because most of the times I don't know what to say, and sometimes it gets it's looked upon as being a little snooty, but in reality it is just actually me feeling shy and conscious. And I felt that maybe he's also pretty reserved, but he was like that through the whole 1 year. That sweetness and that humility and that extreme amount of courteousness, he was there, but very, very sweet.
Next question, and the final one. You said that you have you hinted rather that you have learned to filter subjects. Did that bad experience of Panchali come very handy to you in life, where your intimate scenes were not dimmed?
So, I think I've been good with filtering subjects and knowing what works and what doesn't work for me from the start. Not just Panchali. Panchali was that way 2 years ago, which was pretty recent. I have been very strongly advocating my right to say no to scripts, or understanding what sensibilities I want to work in, which are the areas I want to work in. Like I said, I have no problem doing exposes scenes or intimate scenes at all, as long as I know that the language that they are being shot in and the intention that they are being shot in is pure. Now with Panchali, what happened is, this was about 2.5 years ago, I think, where I went wrong, and that I have learned is that it was portrayed to be a short film to me, and I was getting to do a rural character, which I've always been very fascinated with. And those 20 days over which time we were supposed to be shooting, I was comparatively free, and it kept coming back to me. So my first instinct, I remember I said no a couple of times, and it kept coming back. And then the script was interesting. I was just not sure of the people that I was going to be working with. And it was always supposed to be a short film. I went to the office of the producers. I saw their other short films. I even had long discussions with them. I was fresh out of Padmavat and Tigers in the Hair. And I discussed with them that I've always been very precautious of what work I have, picked up and been a part of. And they assured me that this would be done in the right light, because I was supposed to be romancing 5 guys, 5 husbands, and it was based on a true story. And there was an article out there wherein a woman was married to I think four brothers in that case, in the real case. And it wasn't even named Panchali, it was called Bhumi at that time. And the woman's character, the character I played of Bhumi, had a lot to do. It had all sorts of shapes, from being docile to being aggressive to being sexual and sensuous, and also uh, all sorts of scenes that an actor could explore. Uh, so as a character, it was very interesting. The language of the narrative was a little bothersome for me, but they decided to work around it, and I had made it always very clear, because these were new sect of people. I had made it clear that I will not expose beyond a point, and I did not. Like if you see the web series now, you would know that I'm hardly exposed. At most, I'm kissing 2-3 guys because they are husbands, and you can't really cheat that much. And the whole idea of the first scene was to confuse the audience, because, and it is important for the narrative, that she's having an intimate scene with one brother, and then she shifts to another brother, and then there's a third brother, and each brother is telling her that I'm your husband, right? So it was in order to confuse the audiences as to what's happening. That was the very first scene of the movie, of the short the web series. And that would make sense to me, but we had very thoroughly discussed that it would be in silhouettes, and that's why for me to expose wasn't important. And it was always said that in very clear words, and in fact in writing also. And during the time when we were filming it, I in fact had raised questions to the DOP and to the director as to why there was light on the set, and they said that they will, they don't want it to pixelate or something like that, and when after shooting it they would kind of dim down the ambience and everything, which I kind of agreed to. But what shook me was that it was always supposed to be on Ulu, which was not disclosed to me. It was always supposed to be a web series. They had actually talked about a 45-minute short film, which they then extended the footage to about whatever into 5 episodes. And it was a very difficult ordeal for me, to be very honest. Yes, I mean, the learning I took from there was that even if someone says that they're making a short film for a YouTube channel or for the festivals, you need to know where it is going. And I understood the importance of managers there. That there should be someone kind of foolproofing it for you. And also the fact that, I mean, generally with short films all through the time since we've been acting, we don't really think on those lines, no, like where will it go? You just assume either on YouTube or festivals or this, that, the other. Like the platforms didn't occur to me because I just got excited. Okay, fine, this is a rural character. I felt that this is a great place for me to try out a rural language, just to see how am I performing. And so when there comes an opportunity on a bigger platform, I'd have some experience. And the character had a lot to play. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed working with the director, but I didn't appreciate the way they handled it, and that they were not forthcoming with all the information. And yeah, it was a very sour experience and a very bitter one.
I said it was the last question, but I'm pushing one more here. Your latest,
Absolutely, Vicky. As many.
your latest web series, Ashram. What has it given you?
Hmm. The experience of working with Prakash Jha. As I said, I'm a very shy person, very reserved and conscious. I've mostly had very cordial relationships with my directors. I've been very open with them, comfortable with them, but it's very seldom that I'm really outspoken with them or totally myself. Even though it's Prakash Jha, the celebrated director, and I was very scared of Sir earlier because of his persona, and I always felt that he'd be very strict and you know
Hmm.
I mean, because of the seniority and the experience that he has. He was so giving, and he used to like be extremely childlike on set with us. And he's one director that I've become a kid in front of, literally. The moment I see Prakash sir, I am constantly smiling from year to year, laughing. I just become happy on seeing him. And you know, I can be myself. I can say whatever comes to my mind to him, and ask him all sorts of questions. And he taught me how you bring out nuances in a character without really complicating them. Like if you're working on certain aspects of finding a character, how you can do that without making it too heady or too complicated in very simple ways. And he gave me all the support that I needed, on set, off set, before we started shooting. We had some lovely discussions about breadth, about trying to add on layers to a character. Seeing things which were probably not written on the script, and in making it more interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway from Ashram was Prakash sir. Also, apart from that, it is a subject which is very close to my heart too, because I've had personal experiences in terms of godmen. I come from a family who's always heavily believed in spiritual leaders, and we've had our share of experiences, good and bad, both. And during the success party, I would like to mention that we had a small success party after the first season did so well. And that's when I met half the cast, because mostly my scenes were only with Darshan and Vikram and Rajiv and Kanupriya. I hadn't met Bobby Sir, Tushar, Aditi, Chandan. Chandan I know from before, but I didn't really meet them on set. So in that success party, all of us were together. And Vicky, it was such a beautiful room full of talented people and artists. It's very seldom you meet actors all together and you feel that there is no garb between us. There is only love and appreciation and a feeling of togetherness, and everybody seemed to be their real self, each and every one. They just seemed to be simple artists coming together to make something, and it was such a beautiful feeling. I felt so proud of being a part of such a project at that time, of having such talented actors in one room. So yeah, and with Prakash sir heading us. So it was just wonderful.
Your answers are such that I don't know how to ask you permission for one more question. You said you had good experiences and bad experiences with God. Can you tell us one good experience and one bad experience before we really and actually wind up?
So good experience. So I'll say my very recent good experience. He's not a god man or I would say a spiritual leader per se, but he's someone I got to know through via a friend maybe. I've been counseling him for now 4 5 years, and he's my confidant. He is my go-to person when I'm feeling very low. He's like he's someone who works a normal job, a corporate job, but he likes to counsel people out of sheer love, not from any exchange of money. And he's basically an astrologer in very simple words, but he also like talks about future and this and that, and he's my go-to person. So every time I'm really feeling very flustered or low or clueless, it's almost like hearing the voice of God for me. I'm not saying that everything he says I know will come true, but at that moment he makes me feel better, you know, or he gives me a sense of peace, which is so important, and which is such a big treasure for me, that I have someone like that I can resort to. Having said that, I know that deep down I need to be a uh, laying my faith in my hard work and my capabilities, and should know that if certain things are not working out in my life, they are probably because of my shortcomings, or maybe they are not meant for me, or for XYZ reason. Not any other person, any other human person cannot really make a difference to your life or change it upside down. That can't happen. They can't do miracles, and I cannot lay my trust in that. And at any point in time, I might trust somebody with all my heart and appreciate them with all my heart, but I cannot give anyone the ropes of my life, you know, or I can't empower them to take control of me and lose sight of my instinct. That can't happen, regardless of how much faith I have in someone. So I'm very aware of that. And that is probably because of the experiences that I've had. Now, the bad ones, coming to that. Um, I've seen many people who kind of along the way, because my father was extremely spiritually inclined. And for him, and my definition of spirituality and his are very different. My definition of spirituality is when you believe in the universe, when you believe in keeping good thoughts, and you believe that there is an external power, there is a maybe central external power there, a bigger, force at play, which is an energy perhaps. I like to believe there is God, there is someone running the world, because that makes me feel better. Uh, but spirituality for me means that, I'm able to do some meaningful work in life, do something for others around me, be it for my family, my friends, or the society at large. And if I'm able to do that, that means I'm in touch with my spirituality, or I'm in that direction. For my father, it was always about finding one Baba, finding another God woman or God man, completely going berserk, leaving every other work in his life, and then, dedicating himself to that astha and dedication. And it really did do a lot of harm to us as a family, because he was so you know unfocused, and it kind of drew him away from his responsibilities as a father, as a husband. It made him almost it incapacitated him to work properly, and it kind of put all of us in a difficult spot. And I had an experience with a spiritual leader who kind of tried to take advantage of me. And that could only happen because I was very young at age, and my family very heavily trusted in him. And he was someone I had started to believe in as well, because he sounded very very practical and, extremely reasonable. And he would say just the right things, not about God and spirituality, just about normal workings, day-to-day workings of life. And my entire family was
Trusting him.
quite, yeah, like the entire family trusted in him. And he tried to take advantage of me when I was all of 17, 18, and that kind of scarred me for life, like for a very, very long time. And thankfully, because even at that time, even though I was very young, i i was I did not let him take advantage of me. I was able to escape the situation, uh, because I knew that I had to hear my instincts, though though I had to fight it for a while, because I had started seeing the signs through a couple of, you know,
Meetings.
prior meetings before that incident happened. Through some of the previous meetings, I could gauge and feel that there was something amiss. But I kept doubting myself because I had believed in him for so long that I didn't think that was possible. But then again, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, that was one of the bad experiences, and I learned after that. So I just know that it is great to trust in any person, and it is good to believe in people. But having said that, you need to believe in yourself. And at the end of the day, spirituality is not about seeking miracles or escaping from hard work, और वो कर्म छोड़ देना नहीं होता. आस्था का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप अपना कर्म करना छोड़ दें, वो तो आपको ही करना पड़ेगा, in simple words.
And how is Dad now? Does he still?
Yeah, he's totally like that. He still functions like that. Given a chance, he would do that. The moment I now have to, like, now he's obviously old, and his health doesn't allow him to, take that kind of extreme sort of, I don't know, because it kind of affects his body as well, his health as well, because he becomes so heavily invested in it. So it does affect him still. But thankfully, as long as we really try to keep him away from all that, we tell him to do good in his smaller circles.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupriya.
Thank you.
A big thanks from the entire team of E Times. It was lovely talking.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was really lovely talking to you.